So, you've seen it in the movies 1,000 times, right? The dramatic arrest, the handcuffs, click. But what happens after that? Well, the real world isn't a movie script. An arrest kicks off this incredibly complex, super regulated legal journey where pretty much every single step is laid out by the law.
Okay, let's just cut to the chase. Imagine it's you. You're the one being arrested. Suddenly, it's not a movie anymore. Do you know what the law says has to happen next? What are your actual rights in that moment? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Think of this as your legal roadmap for what follows an arrest.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the basic rules of an arrest. Then we'll get into the medical examination and some special cases. After that, we'll talk about what happens in custody and during identification. And we'll wrap up with the big one, that all-important 24-hour clock.
Okay, let's dive into part 1, the rules of an arrest. You got to think of this as the foundation for everything. It's the core idea that police can't just do whatever they want. From the second an arrest happens, their actions are guided by a very strict playbook.
And this right here, this quote, this is the legal muscle behind that idea. No arrest shall be made except in accordance with the provisions of this law. I mean, it's pretty clear, right? It's saying there's no room for making things up as you go. Every single arrest has to follow the rules, period. This is the principle that holds the entire system together.
So, once an arrest is made, what's one of the very first official steps? You might be surprised to hear, it's often a medical examination. And this isn't just a random checkup, it's got 2 really important jobs. First, to make sure the arrested person is okay health-wise, and second, it can be a huge part of collecting evidence.
But, and this is a big but, they can't just force an exam on anyone for any reason. The police need to have, and this is the exact legal phrase, reasonable grounds for believing that the exam will actually turn up evidence related to the crime. It's a check on their power, right? It stops them from just going on a fishing expedition hoping to find something.
And when the law says examination, we're not talking about just checking your blood pressure. This is a full-on forensic procedure. It can mean collecting blood samples, hair, even fingernail clippings. And yeah, it definitely includes taking material for DNA profiling. It's pretty comprehensive.
So how does this whole thing work? Well, it's a very clear step-by-step process. First, a police officer has to officially request the exam. Then, a registered medical practitioner, a doctor, is the one who actually does it. And finally, that doctor prepares a detailed report and sends it straight to the investigating officer. It's all about creating a clean, documented paper trail.
Now, this next part is super important for the person who is arrested. It's all about transparency. Once that medical report is done, you have an absolute right to get a copy of it. The law doesn't say maybe or if they feel like it, it says the report must be given to you. That's the key right.
Okay, but the law is also smart enough to know that not every situation is the same. A one-size-fits-all rule just doesn't cut it. So for specific circumstances, there are special protocols to make sure there are extra layers of protection.
Here are a couple of really clear examples. If the person arrested is a woman, the law is strict. The examination has to be done by a female doctor or at the very least under her supervision. And in cases involving an accusation of rape, there's another rule. The exam should, whenever possible, take place at a government or local authority hospital.
And in those kinds of sensitive cases, the report that the doctor writes has to be incredibly detailed. We're not talking about a quick summary. It has to list the name, address, and age of the accused, any marks of injury, a description of the material taken for DNA, and get this, the precise reasons for every conclusion the doctor makes. Oh, and the exact start and end time of the exam. It's all about creating a rock-solid, airtight piece of evidence.
All right, so after all those initial steps are done, the next phase is really about what happens while you're in custody. What are your rights then? And what about something like an identification lineup? Let's get into that.
First things first, and this is a big one. The law puts a direct duty on the police. It says that whoever has custody of you is legally responsible for taking reasonable care of your health and safety. That's not a suggestion. It's a fundamental, non-negotiable duty.
Now, you might also be asked to be in an identification lineup. You know, where a witness tries to pick a suspect out of a group. It's a pretty standard tool for investigators. But here's the thing, the police can't just force you to do it. They have to go to a court and get an official order first.
The law also has some really important protections for vulnerable witnesses. So if the person who is trying to identify the suspect is mentally or physically disabled, the whole process gets an upgrade.
A judicial magistrate has to be there to supervise. The person can use whatever method they're most comfortable with, and the whole thing has to be recorded on video. It's all designed to make sure the process is fair and accurate.
And that brings us to our last major point, and honestly, this might be the most critical one of all. We're talking about the 24-hour clock. This is one of the most powerful safeguards we have against someone being locked up indefinitely without a judge ever seeing them.
Just 24 hours. That's the number. If you remember one thing from this, make it that. It's a bright red line, a strict, legally mandated time limit that's a cornerstone of personal liberty.
So here's the rule, plain and simple. A police officer cannot hold someone who is arrested without a warrant for more than 24 hours. That's it. The only time that doesn't count towards the 24 hours is the actual travel time it takes to get you from where you were arrested to the courthouse.
So think of it like this. The moment of arrest, boom, a timer starts. The police have 24 hours on that timer. And before that timer hits 0, they have to bring the person before a magistrate. It's not a suggestion, it's a hard deadline.
So what happens if that 24-hour clock runs out? Well, the police can't just hit the snooze button. Their authority to hold you is up. The law says you either have to be brought before that magistrate, who then takes over, or you have to be let go, maybe on your own bond or on bail. Their power to detain you without a court's permission simply expires.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways here. Number 1, this whole process isn't random, it's all governed by law. Number 2, those medical exams are serious, detailed procedures with very strict rules. 3, you absolutely have a right to get a copy of your own exam report. And finally, remember that 24-hour clock. It's a hard and fast limit on detention without a judge's say-so.
Which really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? When you step back and look at all these rules, the detailed procedures, the protections for people, the strict time limits, do you think they get the balance right? You know, the balance between the government's need to investigate crimes and an individual's fundamental right to be free. Because that's the tightrope this whole legal system is trying to walk.